was built by three boys in Bar Harbor in 1908. Leslie Brewer, Freddie Richardson, and Willie Dolliver.
There's pieces of this vehicle on exhibit at the Seal Cove Auto Museum just outside of Bar Harbor. And two of the boys' descendants have them, and they won't put them together. So they got two displays there of one family's and another family's for us to look at. But it's still something to see, and also know that 3 high school boys assembled this. But this is also during the time when Bar Harbor had laws against automobiles on certain roads up there.
S.W. Jensen, Portland, 1912.
The plate is 1912, but in 1913 he had plate number 8077, and it was listed as serial number 1, South Bill.
G. Anderson, Haynesville, 1917, with a sled.
Built from a 1914 Scripps Booth Rocket Tandem Roadster, 2-cylinder, 10 horsepower.
D.E. McCann in South Portland, 1912-54, fire engine.
This is a 1929 McCann, 1,000-gallon per minute pumper, undergoing underwriter testing on the river in Falmouth. This was engine number 2 for Portland. It cost $7,800. McCann used commercial chassis to build a fire apparatus.
Baron Ellis, Rangeley, 1917.
Converted Indian motorcycle. I don't think I want to ride on it.
No bridges needed. George McLaughlin, Bangor, 1926.
We believe this to be a V12 Packard engine, and it's propeller driven on land or water. I don't swim either, so I don't think I want to try that.
Casco Motors in Sanford, 1921 to 1930.
We have a motor meter here, which is a temperature gauge from the Casco truck. The only one we know of. If any of you are familiar with motor meters, most of them have glass front to rear. This one does not because it's commercial. It has a screen up here so you can't break the mercury and like that. There is remains of 2 Casco trucks in existence. One of them is down in the Portland area.
Harry S. Parker, Ellsworth, 1934.
Assembled from parts of production vehicles. Rumor has it this vehicle still exists. If you know where it is, I'd like to know about it. The other day we put a presentation on in Bar Harbor, and a man stepped up and said that in 1956 he remembered it out behind the barn in Ellsworth. So if anybody knows anybody in Ellsworth dating back to that time or anything, it would be a discussion that would be worth it.
Did you say his wife would not ride in it?
Yes, his wife refused to ride in it, so we parted with it, put it out back, exactly what, but she wouldn't ride in it.
Looks like I'm a prison vehicle.
Well, see, that's your taste on it. Mine is gross. I don't blame her. I don't know if we have a shot on the back in this present. No, we don't. The back is even worse. But those of us that have knowledge about cars, the Chrysler Airflow is a little more graceful. But this is where he probably got the idea from, and like that. But, you know, he did it.
J.W. Penney and Sons, Mechanic Falls building.
This is where the first production engine was built for the Stanley Brothers. They made 4 of them, and they shipped them down there after J.W. went down and went for a ride in a vehicle that had already made. But the engine was too heavy for the vehicle and so forth, so they invited J.W. to go down and see if he could figure out how to design an engine that would be small enough to go in a vehicle like a horse buggy, not some great big train or something. So he goes down, goes for a ride, gets quite impressed with his first automobile ride, and like that, comes home, designs it, and all that. And he made 4 of them, shipped them down, and then he couldn't produce enough engines fast enough for them, so they had the engines built in Massachusetts from then on, by the 2,000 at a time. So here we have the Stanley engine on the left and the steam engine on the right. If you notice, in the center of the Stanley engine there's a steam chest. That's where the steam goes first. Then there's valves inside there to let the steam into the different cylinders. Well, over here on the right, the steam chest on the outside and gets directed into the cylinder from the valve on the side of the cylinder itself. It's a D valve, it's not a round valve, it's a sliding block type of valve. But we have drawings from the pennies that show these 2 engines. So there's no question that they were built by JW.
Wilbur Smith, in Bar Harbor, 1905, patent for a vehicle brake.
We have a very rich history here of patents and like that. The patent office is something really to study. Everything from dust mops to whatever you can dream up, just to go through the patents. It's just time consuming because you find yourself looking at something else and not just what you're looking for. It's like reading the old-time newspapers that we have downstairs in the vault here. You get reading through there, and I'm looking for automobile stuff, and here comes a murder. Oh, I gotta read about that. Well, that murder case goes on for weeks, you know, you gotta read about that as well as the cars. This research does more for me than any alcohol or drugs could do for me, I can tell you.
Patent for a vehicle tire.
Puncture proof. But notice this cross spring to give it a little bit of give to it. So it's not a hard rubber tire. If you've ever ridden in a wagon or anything just hard rubber, it's pretty hard. And the springs wasn't much either. Well, this has got a nice little soft air cushion type of ride to it. And now this one here had.
For another tire.
Yeah, this is spring loaded. In the other direction, all these springs all the way around to give you that nice soft little ride. But it's on hard rubber, but they took that hard rubber out of it by putting springs in it.
Charles O'Brien Augusta, electric horns.
He had several electrical appliance patents for producing sound. I've never found one with his name on it. I keep looking, and I just, it's probably out there somewhere, but, you know.
Harry C.D. Portland, 1907, for a
Adjustable license plate hanger. Well, see, most of the time we'd hang the license plates from the front axle of the vehicle or a headlight bar or something like that. When you received your license plate, you never received a pair of bolts to put it on with or anything else. This man thought he had an idea. He sold the patent to E.T. Burroughs that made the cars and the turntables and like that in Portland. It was in his catalog, and all of a sudden I stumbled on the patent. It wasn't E.T. Burroughs that had the patent, he just purchased it.
Snowboard manufacturing in Old Town. Pneumatic shock eliminator.
You know, they're trying to soften the ride and make accessories. You know what accessories are. All these stores we have today, automobile departments in the stores.
Arthur Mitchell, Portland, 1910, for another.
This is the patent for a shock absorber shown on the front axle of a Model T Ford. If you're familiar with Model Ts, you would recognize that drawing as nothing but a Model T Ford.
C.W. Goodrue, Waterville, 1914, for
This is
shield
sheet.
and regard for automobiles.
But it seems in a way for cranking, unless you take it off and crank it and put it back on again. But it's on there to keep the rocks and mud and like that getting in the radiator for bruising